creak came again, followed by movement. Job crept forward. Down the far hall, partially veiled by shadows and flickering light, a figure emerged. A gaunt man, hunched and jittering in a ragged hooded coat, stood just beyond the dying fluorescent buzz. His face was pale, streaked with grime, his eyes wide with sleepless terror. A rusted revolver dangled from one trembling hand. Job didn't move. The man's head jerked toward him, sensing something, someone, in the dark. For a moment, their eyes locked. Then the man bolted. Job didn't hesitate. "Kiona," he whispered. The shadows behind him stirred. A gust of motion tore down the hall as Kiona lunged forward, a blur of fur and feral speed. The vagrant shrieked and swung the revolver, but it was too late. Kiona slammed into him, jaws clamping onto his gun arm. With a crunch and a savage twist, she dragged him to the ground. Job reached them just as the man hit the tile. Blood smeared across the linoleum as the vagrant writhed beneath Kiona's weight, chest heaving, pupils darting with animal panic. Kiona loomed, fangs at his throat, growling low. A sound like thunder filtered through broken glass. Job didn't blink. He crouched beside the man, rifle still aimed. Rainwater dripped from his coat to the floor. "You've got one chance," Job said coldly. "Where are the missing children?" The man squirmed, but Kiona growled deeper. Job leaned closer. "You know where they took them. Talk." "Please," the man whimpered. His eyes flicked from Job to Kiona to the shadows beyond. "Please, don't get me in trouble. Trouble with who?" Job interrupted, lowering his weapon just enough to give the illusion of mercy. "The doctor. The not nice doctor," the vagrant muttered, voice trembling. "He hurts people. Hurt me like the others." Job's grip tightened. "Then tell me where the children are. He'll never know you helped." But the man cut him off, panicked. "He will know. He always knows. He'll make Eric tell him." Job's voice turned to steel. "Lower your voice. I'm losing my patience. And if I lose my patience, you lose your life. Understood?" The vagrant nodded frantically, chest still rising and falling like a jackrabbit's. "Now," Job said. "Where are they?" The man swallowed hard, twitching as if something was crawling under his skin. Then, in a voice barely above a breath, "Upstairs, by the lab. Big door. You can't miss it." Job pressed his comms. "Second floor near the lab. Big door. Copy?" "Copy that," Tamara's voice replied. Job narrowed his eyes, then slowly pulled his revolver away from the man's head. He exhaled, just loud enough to be heard. "All right," he said. "You told me where the kids are. That buys you a little more time." The vagrant's breath hitched. He looked ready to cry. Job softened his tone, just a touch. "What about the other building? The gym?" The man's eyes widened again. No. Please don't make me say it." "Say what?" "That's where the doctor keeps the candidates." Job's brow creased. "Candidates?" he repeated. "Candidates for what?" The man didn't answer. His body began to shake. He tried to curl in on himself, like a child hiding from a nightmare. Please don't make me say it. He'll know. He always knows. If I talk, he'll put one in me too." Job frowned, confused. "Put what in you?" But the man's eyes darted toward the courtyard, toward the drugged-out vagrants. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "None of you should be here." "What's wrong with them?" Job pressed. "What did he do to them?" Silence. Then, the man's voice dropped to a barely audible rasp. "They're still in there. Trapped. Not all the way gone yet." Job stared at him, unnerved for the first time. The fear in the man's eyes wasn't just panic. It was the kind of terror Job had only seen once before. Years ago, in that goddamn cave. He blinked, the memory clawing at the edge of his mind. The smell of rotting stone, the cold breath of something vast, waiting in the dark. He'd buried it deep. But this man's voice pulled it back to the surface like a corpse through water. For a moment, Job's grip on his rifle loosened. His mind drifted to the thought of the missing kids. Please, let them be alive. Let them have survived this long. He never prayed. Not anymore. But just this once he did. Just let them be alive. But his prayer didn't last. Tamara's voice crackled over the comms. I have found the missing children. I repeat, I have found the missing children. They are dead. Job froze in solemn silence. His hopes quickly dashed. He could barely hear the vagrant's trembling voice. I'm sorry, the vagrant mumbled over broken breaths. Then, in the briefest of moments, Job raised his revolver and fired. They are dead. Tamara's voice trailed as she released the button on her radio. Lord, grant me the strength to face this horror with courage and the clarity to comprehend this tragedy. Embrace the souls of those who have departed, and may they find peace in your eternal light. She whispered solemnly to herself as she looked down at the dismembered horror locked within the large freezer. Gather the remains and set charges. Job's voice was gritty and stern over the comms. We are going to bring this whole building down. Trish will return to back you up. Over and out. Roger that, Tamara muttered back. Over and out. Tamara looked past the flickering luminescent lights hanging haphazardly above Blake, who stood with a flashlight in his mouth rummaging through old documents and records inside an office across from her. However, what caught Tamara's eye once more was the large sealed door that had been reinforced with steel plating that would connect to the next level of the stairwell. The door looked unsettlingly out of place, even in this decaying building. Do you need help with that? Blake asked as he looked up at her. The flashlight briefly blinded her eyes before he turned back down toward the documents. Tamara shook her head. She got over her fear of gore and the macabre years ago when she studied medicine, and, unfortunately, she was no stranger to violence and death. A toll paid over the years of her service, but this was different. I got this. You just find something useful. Mostly school records, suspensions, and other bullshit, Blake mumbled with the light still clenched between his teeth. One file looks kinda new, though. Going on and on about some experiment or something. Something to do with marionettes. Doesn't ring a bell to me, Tamara said as she pulled out an unfolding bag from the tactical sling pack over her back. But I can check it out later. What about that door? Let me see if I can torch it open, Blake answered. It will be open in... The clamor of boots echoed coming up the stairs, causing both Tamara and Blake to ready their weapons. Trish, remember to announce if it's you? Blake whispered over the comms. There was a brief moment of silence as the sound of the footsteps ceased. It's me, Trish. Coming up the stairs. Don't shoot me over. Copy that, Blake answered. Proceed. Over. Trish quietly proceeded up the stairwell with her hand gripping tightly around the black and red handle of her sheathed blade. Where they at? Trish asked. But before anyone could answer, she looked past Tamara to see the remains resting so haphazardly behind her in the large freezer. Dear God, she muttered. I can take care of it, Trish, Tamara replied over the hiss of Blake's hand torch as he approached the large sealed door. You remember how to set the charges? Seems simple enough, Trish answered. But we didn't get a chance to really blow anything up. Well, I don't think Faye would have been thrilled with us blowing things up in his backyard, Blake replied as the light of the blowtorch illuminated the welding goggles over his eyes. It was Faye's idea, Trish retorted as she pulled out some of the C4. You sure you got this? Tamara nodded again as she gave her a forced smile. I'll take care of these little angels. All 6 of them will get a proper burial at least. And we can also give them some revenge by killing all of these drugged-up bastards, Trish said with a purpose. There is only 5, Tamara muttered to herself. Come again? Trish asked. There are only 5 skulls here. Tamara quickly began to search through the remains. The bones are only enough for 5 bodies. So one might still be alive? Trish asked. Tamara sighed as the small glimmer of hope tarnished before her eyes. Maybe, she said with remorse. But there are 11 arms here,